Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for spending your valuable time with the Adapt 2030 channel. Buying conditions for homes, not looking so good. Maybe living down by the river is the best option. Retail sales collapsing in China, but there's always a solution to a problem. South African power supply running out of diesel. German meat running out across the country. Let's do McDonald's math. Hyperinflation. Ukraine sunflowers 25% reduced. Bulgarian corn crop down as well. And perhaps we'll have to use the techniques of planting our own trees so quickly to reforest areas for fruit. And as we head into never-ending price rises for our food, let's look fast markets. Top 10 wheat exporters. And if we start subtracting the losses from the United States, Canada, the EU, Brazil, Ukraine, and Argentina, we are definitely going into incredible price rises just with the wheat alone. And taking a look at the grain corridor, this is grain and oil seeds outbound as well. Corn on the top circle there, 50% of all the exports. Wheat, yellow, 33%. Wow, that number keeps popping up again, doesn't it? Total for the year so far, 8.4 million tons, far, far below the regular 15 to 18 million tons of exports. And if you're looking for a distant early warning, this is it here. Ukraine sunflower crush, or when they take sunflowers and crush them into the oil that's used for cooking oils, down 25%. But they're one of the world's largest sunflower exporters. So buyers are going to be looking for substitute oils. What do you think it would be? Bulgarian corn crop declining by 18%. So everywhere we look around, we start to see losses that are beginning to mount as you add 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1 equals a lot. Off the Ukrainian Grain Association, this is back October 24th, just as their corn harvest was beginning, drought affected. We still don't have any numbers, but I guess Strategiae Grains will put something out in the future for us. But corn's pretty plentiful. I mean, look in the United States, although the USDA started at 190 bushels per acre and they've since dropped to 168 bushels per acre, something like this. Corn's still readily available. Brazil goes into its second corn planting season. So corn's not going to be the issue, but most of that corn's turned into ethanol or high fructose corn syrup. Very little of the corn that we know is direct from the ear to your plate. It's processed through a factory somewhere. Wheat is going to be the big one. And then some of the off grains such as sorghum, millet, these types of things are in deficit as well, oats. So everywhere you look, there's losses globally that are now beginning to add up. So as we come into the extreme price rises and the inavailability of countries to now feed the planet, the larger the distractions are going to become, i.e. China. Have you seen what's happening over there? Originally, the way I was looking at all the lockdowns and the flagging of passes of red and yellow, etc., that would send you off to the hospitality suites that were lining the highways, I just simply looked at it as there wasn't enough food in the country and the calories were being saved and then distributed by the state to people. Their diets were cut. Here's your 1,200 calorie per day diet delivered to your room, instead of you having the option to go out and buy it. So I think that was a bit of trial and error happening there in terms of saving food to prevent all-out collapse in rapid fashion in China. Every grand solar minimum, China collapses. So this is going to be no different. And before we start, just a quick word from our sponsor. Wall Street's fear gauge is flashing a warning that stocks could fall off a cliff. Billionaire economists agree on two things. We're heading towards a lost decade for the stock market, and investors need to buy gold. Call the Patriot Gold Group today before it's too late. 888-546-7020. Your IRA can be in physical gold or silver, and you may qualify for the no fee for life IRA. 888-546-7020. And now on with the video. And speaking of things being lean, let's go over to Germany. Emergency cash deliveries. The cash is lean. Bank runs. Discontent sweeping, power cuts, not enough energy. From the opulence of Europe to Stone Age living in 6 months. Going to be draining on the psyche. A lot of people are going to be angry, I do believe. But then also add insult to injury here, German meat industry warning of empty supermarket shelves and another 40% jump in meat prices. Remember, the U.S. will be insulated from this for a sliver of time, but as we see the rest of the world follow the same trajectory, it's just a matter of time before it arrives here. And the head of the group, German meat industry, in 4, 5, 6 months, we'll have nothing on the shelves. That's not really hopeful talk there now, is it? And Germany's now the largest meat importer in Europe, and they can calculate when there will be no more meat. So I guess they'll have to switch to alternatives. I wonder what that would be. Let's talk about inflation and alternatives here. 1974, Big Macs were 55 cents, and French fries were 20 cents. Fast forward to today, although this is Five Guys, pretty good sandwich and burger shop if you like that sort of thing. Cheeseburger, $11.19. Small fry, $5.91. No drink, $17.74. Hey, I thought it was the same dollar. How did that get eroded? Where did the money and purchasing power go? Somebody left that money printing press on overnight, forgot to turn it off. My bad. And out of the Irish Times, matching on with the conversion to the electric economy. EV charging to match cost of diesel fuel after a 67% hike in electric recharging. It seems to be the new price structure is being plugged in now. And as you look at costs, if corporations know they can squeak an extra dime out of you, they're going to. And you look at all the problems around the world and you say, well, if electricity is going to be one of those, there has to be solutions. Leave it to China. You know they're always going to solve a problem over there with the amount of people. Look how many solar panels are there. They're running their whole home for free off of that. Although I don't think there's much natural sunlight getting in there. That's an older building, about a 40-year-old building if you wanted to know. And speaking of energy being limited, Barron's putting out this one here. Eskom, South Africa power supplier, is and has run out of fuel. So the power utility ran out of funds. And here's the strange thing. Municipalities have now not paid their bills for the electricity consumed. So you have to wonder, in a real world, can Exxon just cut off a municipality that's not paying and mooching, freeloading off the system? I don't know where the diesel is going to come from or the funds, but it does seem like rolling blackouts are going to be intensifying in South Africa. And China retail sales doesn't look like it's following the trend line any longer. Definitely broke from there. But again, if everybody's locked down in the country, can't move, can't go spend, I think that's going to drop further, especially with what's happening now. Looks like a lot of ports are going to close, factories closing, so there's going to be a drop-off in Chinese exports for a bit, so prepare accordingly. And if we do jump over to personal savings versus credit card debt in the United States, oh, look at that red line. Not quite the Loch Ness Monster, but more of a Brontosaurus neck on that one. Speaking of possible problems, for most everybody, this is the largest investment anybody will make pretty much in their life, unless you're buying a company, the home. This is where you store value, etc., so we've been told. Buying conditions for homes, this is University of Michigan Index. Wow, that looks the lowest since the early 1980s. Not looking too good. And also a number 33 right there. Isn't that interesting? So the housing market explained in a single slide. 2021, if you wanted to get a $600,000 house at 3%, you're going to pay $2,000 a month, approximately. But this year, you can get a slightly cheaper home at $590,000. You get a 7% interest rate, and your payment's $3,100. Same house, just a different interest rate. So keep that in mind as we go 3% or 7%. And we can find the United States somewhere in the middle of that list. You're definitely not going to get 4%. This is the bank-to-bank rate, or what the Fed would be giving out to banks who need funding. So if you consider the 7% as the loan rate in the United States and the prime rate between banks, institutions is 4%, what do you think it is in Mexico? How about Brazil at almost 14%? Pakistan 15%? What about Iran 18%? And then Argentina 75%? How much do you think your home payment would be at 75% interest? There's no way you could afford anything at that point. And this little nugget off the Home Buyers Association in the United States, 2008 and 9, 10, massive crash. Look where we sit. We're in another downward trend, November 2022. Doesn't look very good for the economy everywhere. Housing inventory increasing overall, 33.47%. A lot of 33s in this video, isn't it? So if you are looking for a cheaper home, bargain home, if you will, you're going to look at Phoenix, Arizona. The amount of inventory up there is gushing, with Provo, Utah as well, Raleigh, North Carolina. And if you get on the list, where there's more homes, you have a better chance of asking for a reduction in the price of the home. Top 20 right there, if you're looking, which makes perfect sense when I see this. I grew up thinking that living in a van down by the river was a bad thing. Apparently now it's a life goal. And the reason I'm bringing you the financial information along with the change that we see in agriculture and systems around the planet, jet streams, cloud cells, it's all related. These fingerprints of the grand solar minimum that we talk about on this channel, population migration, economic collapse, and government restructuring on how they oversee the citizens. These are the same three things that you can find every 400-year chapter in history. Go back to the 1600s modern minimum. Keep going back in time. Go back 400 years, 400. Even go back to 2400 years prior, which is 400 BC, if you will. You start to see the same things again and again. So they all start to interloop and interplay on each other, where the crops become less reliable, the planting, harvesting dates, yields are declining, so then food prices go up, but then there's inflation involved because governments are trying to help citizens not go onto the street, and then you start to get into this. The inflation takes over. The food prices become so expensive that you're just spending money on the basics at that point. So all the other periphery, what you consider disposable income, not there any longer. And you see this again and again and again. And eventually it is going to culminate where we can't grow enough food for the entire global populace. People are going to get angry. They're going to go out to the streets, ask for change. When that happens, then governments are going to have to think of a different way to oversee or manage the collapse phase. And then we'll start again. It'll reset again. Also, if you're going to be thinking about foods, let's take a look here. Acidic and alkaline foods for your diet. If you're going to store them for a long period of time, you want to be able to buy these foods so you can tweak and bend what your pH might be going into the body. So carbonated water, club soda, energy drinks, beer, etc., really acidic. And then we come into purified water, distilled water, coffee at a 5. But then we come into the neutral, spring water, that sort of thing, and above neutral, almonds, baking soda if you're going to mix that in with your water, and then a whole list of vegetables and fruits that bring you into the 9s and the 10s with the veggies, broccoli, artichoke, Brussels sprouts, spinach, cabbage, cauliflower, carrots. I'll let you read the rest. That's a winter garden right there. And as we move through, look at the technique of the tree planting. Now, how quickly could you do an acre of fruit trees in your front yard? Start with currants. Go for the plums. Apples are good. And anything in between that's in your grow zone, I would hit it this fast immediately. And if you are looking for storable foods, my Patriot Supply and Adapt 2030 3-month emergency food supply, along with seeds, True Leaf Market, heirloom and organic seeds for any grow zone on the planet. Speaking of winter gardens, and join us every Thursday night, 10 p.m. to midnight Eastern Standard Time, Revolution Radio, where we stream on 8 platforms. I appreciate you watching, and I'll see you next time.